thing that concerned me, and we're now working on it, was states are very committed to this, and they're hiring R3 coordinators. But just like all the rest of your element, where's the continuing education? You know, a deer biologist has all kinds of deer tech committees and national meetings and regional meetings that they can go to and share expertise, but there's nothing there on the R3 front. So I called up the folks at the National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and we're working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Council of Advanced Hunting and Shooting Sports, and the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies to develop what I'll call a continuing education for your R3 coordinators or managers. It's going to be a 4-day course. They're doing the curriculum right now. We hope the first one to be held in July. Our organization's already been on the record to say that anybody that's involved in a fishing R3, the agency won't have to worry about their travel. We will pay for their travel to get to this facility. And in developing the curriculum, we reached out to the 23 existing coordinators and said, where do you need help? And some of the things we heard from them is they need help with survey, with the strategic planning element, with partnership building, customer service and marketing, and evaluation of programs. So those 4 key components will be very deeply embedded in the 4-day training that we offer those folks. There are some states that said, well, what does an ideal R3 coordinator or manager look like? So we developed what we considered a job description and the skill sets you might want to look for, and we've shared that with all state agencies, because it's not your typical wildlife biologist. You're looking for somebody with some marketing knowledge, with some background on customer service, and still have the knowledge about what's going on with the resource. We have a series of toolkits that you could download from our website. Many states are already using them. I know New York, Georgia, Arkansas, Alabama have all had excellent results using our email campaigns to retain and reactivate anglers. We provide digital banners that any state can just go right on our website, download those, and use those in their advertising campaigns. You know, most everybody gets their information off of their phone these days. We're working with Massachusetts, where we had our marketing firm come right in and develop a marketing program for them, and they're just now evaluating the effectiveness of it. But we already know that the drive-through rate on their license page was way higher than any organic traffic that gets driven to anybody's site. So, you know, it looks to be very promising, the work that they were doing. And of course, every year we do an annual marketing workshop. It's not a training workshop, and Ed's sending his team out next week. We have all 50 states coming. We have probably 2 representatives from every state. RBFF pays for the travel for those folks to come. And what we wind up doing is share with them the latest trends, the latest tools and techniques that states are using that are working, so that they can go home with some ideas that they can implement in their state right out of the gate that aren't going to take a heavy lift for them. All the information I talked about today is available on our website. You could just go to takemefishing.org /R3 and you'll find it all. And the last thing I'll just leave you with is that when I was hired by RBFF, they asked, well, all right, and this was 5 months ago, what's your vision, you know, for R3? And when I came on, it seemed like the buzz was all about, we need to hire an R3 coordinator, we need to hire an R3 coordinator. And yes, states do. You know, but when I was speaking with the staff at RBFF, and we've embraced this as the entire organization's vision, we want to see state agencies embrace R3 and integrate it throughout the entire agency, treat it just like they do every other major component of their agency, whether you're talking deer management, you know, any of your waterfowl management. It's not any one person's job. Yes, you need a coordinator. You can call it an R3 coordinator or manager, but this needs to be an agency-wide effort if we're going to succeed. And probably the toughest task to this, as much as it'll be a struggle for Ed and his team to develop the plan, the hardest thing is going to be for Ed to figure out a way to come up with the resources, both the financial and staffing resources, to implement it. Because if you think you're going to move the needle on getting thousands of new people out hunting and fishing in Tennessee by just putting on an R3 coordinator, you know, it's probably not going to be successful. So we're committed all the way. You know, we're going to be there every step of the way that Tennessee wants to go on developing this plan and implementing the plan. It will take time, but you know, we're looking forward to taking the next steps with them whether it's in February, March, or April, we'll be in there and we'll be with you guys every step of the way. So thank you folks for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm here for the night because I heard there was a pig roast, so I'm not going home until tomorrow. I don't know if you have time for questions or you want to just leave that for when I'm...
No, I think there may be some questions. And thank you very much for that presentation. Is there an effort to maybe get some curricula in elementary schools or junior high or high schools for conservation that leads to outdoor activity, fishing and hunting and that kind of thing? Is that part of the effort?
We're not doing anything toward curriculum. That's a real tough, it would be wonderful to do something like that. Most of the fishing that's in schools is an after-school activity or a club activity, and we do support some of those. And we've had conversations with other NGOs that are more in the education field about how could we weave it into the accepted curricula in schools, because archery in the schools did just that. It's a part of gym classes in many schools all over the country, and I know down here, extremely well. So it's an idea that certainly should be looked at in depth. It's not one of the things that we're carrying the flag on, though.
When you talk about money and budgets, and if you can't be specific, just some examples of other states' budgets that they have dedicated to an R3 program.
And I didn't touch on it, the survey we did of states was trying to get a sense of how much are they spending on R3. And, it was almost impossible to get the budgeting information out of them. And it was commingled with aquatic education, which part of aquatic education could be R3, but it not necessarily is R3. But we saw probably less than 10 states are spending more than $500,000 a year. Half the states are spending somewhere, $100,000 or less. And, we probably commit $2 or $3 million of our money to a national ad campaign, just trying to drive interest in fishing and then leverage the PSAs where we can. Because an organization like ours, you could blow 2 of those PSAs on one Super Bowl commercial.
You touched on this, but and I talked about it our last meeting. We can do the outreach and all the techniques and that kind of thing, but it seems like if it's not an agency-wide effort that you get a hunting or fishing and you get a dad or a mom that's interested in participating and taking her children or just doing it herself, then where do you go and how do you do it? Where's the access? Is it easy access? Do you have courtesy boat docks? Do you have easy walking or four-wheeler access to hunting areas? And have you run up on roadblocks where the management of the agencies that is not set up for this new type of effort?
Yes, there are roadblocks everywhere, and probably the biggest roadblock is most state agencies are not good at collecting email, and it's the most cost-effective way to reach your customer, to market to your customer, to you'll be able to track what they're doing and send them a message. You were bass fishing last year. Did you know we just saw 10 beautiful bass come out of this lake? Different techniques you can use. But to your point about the place to go, one of the things that we're embarking on right now, we do everything in a pilot program, test it, see if it works, and then we come back to it. So we've entered into a contract with Fishing's Future for what we're calling first catch centers. If you notice, Major League Baseball commits probably $30 million a year to advertising just to get kids interested in baseball. And they're not even interested whether they play or not. They just want them watching Major League Baseball. Golf has the same thing. All of these major sports have a recruiting effort and I'll call it a farm system in place. And we don't have that for fishing. So what we're trying to work with is 3 national wildlife refuges. We're looking for 1 state partner. It's up in the Northeast. And we have Pennsylvania Fish Commission is going to do a mobile. The whole idea behind the first catch center is it's a place that you can bring the family to, teach them how to fish, they can have a reasonable chance at catching a fish, and then you set up a mechanism where they can come back to that place a couple of times on their own, getting what they learned to catch a fish. And I'm not sure the logistics of how it'll work out. Maybe it's if you have a fishing education pond where you do hands-on teaching one day, they can register for it just like you get a tee time on a golf course. The whole thing's in a pilot phase, but it's aimed right at what you're pointing to is, how do we give them a good experience, and how do we find them a place where they can come back to and have a good experience. And probably the other key component of this, and it's what Tennessee will wind up looking at too, is none of these programs are going to succeed without some type of partners. So we're actually looking to train, in the case of the Fish and Wildlife Service, their friends groups that are located at the hatchery. The friends group will run the program. So we'll set them up with all the equipment, so you don't even need fishing equipment. You'll go to that. There's 3 of them we're going to put in Texas. You'll go there, the fishing equipment is there. We'll teach the volunteers how to run a program so that it's limited demands on the Fish and Wildlife Service paid staff. And that's the same thing Tennessee's going to wind up having to do. The agency just doesn't have the capacity to do it all. You're going to need a whole bunch of partners. But the first step in the plan is you've got to get your internal house in order, have those conversations about, are we doing the right things, what programs are working, what aren't. Then once you've formulated that, then you can bring your partners in and say, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? Where do you think you fit in? Where do you think you can help us, or can we partner? And it works really well when you do it that way. But the first step is it needs to be an internal one. Long answer to your question, sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Stroud.
Dave, we were talking about the PSAs. Did you fund the productions?
Yes.
And dumb question, how are you funded?
So we're federally funded.
Okay.
It's sport fish restoration dollars. Back in '91, when you saw those fishing numbers hit the rocks, state directors and industry partners got together, and when they reauthorized the Sport Fish Act, they put in the Sport Fish Act that 2% off the top is going to be set aside for a national outreach, education, communications campaign. And in doing that, they created the Sport Fish and Boating Partnership Council. And what the council did was create the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation to administer that money. 2% is about $12 million. If the tax went up, we'd get more, get less. But there's no guarantee that we get the money. About, I'll say 13 years ago, even though we're set up to get it, our board of directors has 7 state representatives on it, so they can drive what we're doing. They have 7 members from ASA, the American Sport Fishing Association, 7 members from the National Marine Manufacturers Association. So the boating industry, states, all are on our board and drive what we do. But we have to bid for, the RFP just came out. Fish and Wildlife Service is going to evaluate those RFPs. We're hopeful we're going to get the grant. It'll be a 5-year grant to keep us going. In January, if you see a news release that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service awarded the money to some advertising firm, I'm sorry, Ed, but I won't be back.
So one more time, so the PSAs are funded by you.
Yeah.
So you go out, your crew of people, you go out, you hire the producers and so forth. Or is that in-house?
It's not in-house. We have a...
So you contract all of that out?
We actually have a contract with an advertising firm called Cole McVoy. Our board of directors, the contract runs about 4 years. Mm-hmm. We bid it out, and the board members select who it is. But we rely on that advertising marketing firm to provide us what's the latest trends, right. Who are the underutilized markets, what's the creative way to get there, and then we have them develop the creative that we put out there. So
they bring the research in. You decide on what their opinions are.
Right, and then they'll produce it.
And one other last thing, is what I just saw only a PSA, or can it be used or utilized like
the state agency
from a sponsor, let's say?
State agency can download that and utilize it, and okay. Sponsor could too if they're connected to the resource. I mean those kind of questions when you go on our site. Before you download it, they're going to ask you to sign in and what you are. So if it's a state agency, they're going to get access to download all of it.
Okay.
We just have to be careful that, it's
Not being, sure.
misused,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions? Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you, folks,
Look
for having
forward to
me.
you working with the staff, and we've got a long way to go, but we're making some good headway, and this is very important, so thank you very much.